The tap was supposed to be a simple thing. At the edge of Mukweni Viewpoint, where safari vans stopped and tourists took photos of the valley, there was a public water tap installed for staff and guides. It ran from a tank fed by a borehole. In dry months, it mattered. Guides filled jerry cans, cleaners filled buckets, and sometimes tourists refilled bottles when they were careless enough to forget water in the heat. The tap line formed naturally because the tap was slow. It dripped, then flowed, then slowed again as the tank pressure changed. People waited, chatted, checked their phones, and looked out over the valley. Then, one morning, the line belonged to a baboon. It wasn't a huge alpha male with scars like a villain. It was a thick adult male with a strong jaw and calm eyes, used to human spaces. Its fur was dusty from sitting on rocks. Its hands were quick, and its confidence came from experience, not aggression. The baboon approached while the guides were filling jerry cans. At first, nobody reacted strongly. Baboons were common near viewpoints. They scavenged for crumbs, stole fruit, searched bins. People shooed them away and carried on. This baboon didn't go to the bins. It went straight to the tap. It climbed onto the concrete base, grabbed the tap handle, and pulled. Water splashed. The baboon leaned down and drank like it had paid for the infrastructure. A guide named Nala Doob stepped forward with a stick, not to hit, just to wave. "Go!" she said sharply. The baboon didn't move. It looked at her and continued drinking, cheeks puffing slightly as it swallowed. Nala raised her stick. The baboon bared its teeth. Not a full scream, just a warning display. Nala stopped. Because everyone who worked near baboons knew, if you push too hard, you trigger a charge, and a baboon's bite wasn't a joke. They were strong, fast, and fearless when they felt cornered. A tourist couple stepped closer, phones raised. "Wow," the man said, half delighted. "It's using the tap." His partner laughed nervously. "Is that safe?" Nala snapped. "Back! Don't feed it! Don't get close!" The tourists backed off slightly, but the crowd's attention grew, and attention was fuel for trouble. As the baboon finished drinking, it didn't leave. It sat on the tap base like a guard and watched the line of humans. One guide tried to step in and fill a container. The baboon slapped the concrete sharply with its palm. Not a full attack. A message. "This is mine." The guide retreated. People began to mutter. The tap line stopped moving. The sun climbed higher. Heat increased. Water need increased. And the baboon remained. Nala called the reserve security office on her radio. "Baboon at the tap," she said. "Holding it." The voice on the radio sounded tired. "Again?" the security man asked. Nala's jaw tightened. "Yes," she said. "And tourists are crowding." Security promised to send someone. In the meantime, the baboon noticed something else. Tourists' bags. Bags meant food. Chips. Fruit. Sweet drinks. Sometimes medication that smelled interesting. Tourists often dropped bags on the ground while taking photos or queuing for water, trusting the place like it was a zoo with invisible rules. The baboon watched a backpack slide off a woman's shoulder as she adjusted her hat. It didn't rush wildly. It walked over with calm purpose, grabbed the strap, and pulled. The woman screamed and let go. The baboon dragged the bag a few meters, sat down, and unzipped it with practiced fingers. Tourists shouted, cameras flashed, someone tried to chase it. Nala yelled, "Don't run at it!" Too late. A man lunged forward, and the baboon snapped its jaws and sprang sideways, surprisingly fast. The man stumbled backward, tripping over another dropped bag. Two more tourists panicked and threw their bags down as they retreated. Now there were multiple targets. The baboon's eyes moved quickly over the ground like a shopper choosing. It grabbed a second bag, bit through a plastic bottle, and sugary liquid spilled onto dust. More baboons appeared at the edge of the parking area, drawn by commotion and scent. A juvenile ran in, snatched a bag of chips, and bolted. A female baboon with a baby on her belly approached cautiously. Nala felt her chest tighten. This wasn't one baboon problem anymore. It was becoming a troop problem. And it began with one resource: water. Because in dry months, water wasn't just hydration, it was power. The baboon had learned that the tap was predictable, slow, and defended by human hesitation. It could control the line by simply refusing to move, and when humans panicked, they dropped their bags. That morning, the tourists lost more than dignity. They lost control of the space. Security arrived late, because security always arrived after the problem matured. A man named Cabello Maseko stepped out of a truck carrying a paintball marker and a loud air horn. He didn't look heroic. He looked like someone who had chased baboons too many times and knew victory was temporary. He assessed the scene quickly. One dominant male baboon at the tap base scattered tourist bags on the ground, smaller baboons circling the edges, humans shouting and moving unpredictably. Cabello's first move was not to shoot. It was to control humans. He raised his voice. "Bags up," he shouted. "All bags on your shoulders or in the vehicles. Move back." Some tourists obeyed. Others hesitated, still filming. Nala backed Cabello up, her voice sharp and authoritative. Guides listened because guides understood consequences. When most bags were lifted and people stepped back, the baboon's options shrank. No easy loot. Less excitement. Cabello then used the horn. One loud blast. The troop flinched. Juveniles jumped back. The dominant male bared teeth but didn't leave the tap base. Cabello aimed a paintball at the ground near the baboon. Not at the face, not at the body, just a sharp sting message near its feet. Pop. Paint splattered the concrete. The baboon jumped, startled, then climbed off the tap base a few steps, just enough to show it was not immune to discomfort. Cabello didn't chase. He held position, applying steady pressure. The baboon retreated toward rocks, but it didn't run far. It turned and watched the tap, like it was waiting for Cabello to get bored. Nala whispered to Cabello, "It'll come back as soon as you leave." Cabello nodded. "I know," he said. "We have to change the system." That afternoon, reserve management held a quick meeting in the staff hut. The tap was the problem because it created a predictable gathering point. Water plus humans plus dropped bags plus slow queue. Baboons were opportunists. They didn't need to attack. They needed humans to make mistakes. The manager, Ms. Hartwell, was blunt. "We cannot keep hazing every day," she said. "We need prevention." They discussed options. Build a fenced tap enclosure with a gate, install a push-button tap that shuts off quickly, relocate the tourist refill point away from the viewpoint, enforce a strict no bags on ground rule, with signs and guide announcements install baboon-proof bins, because garbage drew them too. They chose the fastest mix, move the tourist access water point, and secure the staff tap. By evening, maintenance installed a simple wire cage around the tap area with a self-closing gate. It wasn't pretty, but it prevented animals from sitting on the base and owning the handle. The cage had a small entry space for humans and containers, not wide enough for baboons to slip in easily without being trapped, which baboons avoided. They also posted a staff member at peak hours for a week to enforce behavior. No bags down, no food out, no crowding. The next morning, the dominant male returned to the tap as if the day before had never happened. It walked straight to the tap base and stopped. The tap was behind wire now. The baboon grabbed the mesh and rattled it hard, testing. It tried to reach the handle through gaps. It couldn't. It bared teeth and slapped the wire in frustration. Nala stood nearby, calm. She didn't yell. She didn't wave a stick. She simply waited, because this time the structure, not her courage, was doing the work. The baboon paced along the cage, searching for the weakness that humans always left. It found none. Then it noticed tourists again. A new group arrived, excited, ignorant, dropping bags automatically as they posed with the valley behind them. Nala saw it happen and felt her stomach drop. Because even if the tap was secured, the baboon had learned something more valuable. Humans dropped bags when distracted. It didn't need water control to steal, it needed chaos. The baboon moved toward the tourists, eyes scanning for the easiest target. Nala stepped forward and shouted, "Bags on you! Now!" This time, tourists listened faster, because there were signs, because guides were louder, because yesterday's story had spread. Most lifted bags. One man didn't. He laughed, filming. The baboon grabbed his bag strap and yanked. The man screamed and let go. The baboon dragged the bag 3 meters, unzipped, and pulled out a bright packet, trail mix. Nala felt anger flash, not at the baboon, at the man, because the baboon was doing exactly what it had learned humans allowed. Cabello fired a paintball near the baboon. The baboon dropped the bag and ran, snarling. But the damage was done. The baboon had confirmed that bags were still a reward. So the reserve had to do one more thing. Not just secure the tap. Secure human behavior. In wildlife conflicts near tourist sites, animals often learned faster than visitors. Visitors arrived once, made mistakes, left. Animals stayed and repeated. So Nala and Cabello built a routine stronger than the baboons. Every morning at the viewpoint, before any tourists arrived, guides held a 2-minute briefing at the parking area. Keep bags on your body or inside vehicles. No food out unless inside a closed vehicle. Do not run if baboons approach. Do not scream or throw objects. If baboons appear, stand still, back away slowly. They made it boring and firm. Signs reinforced it in simple icon form, because not everyone read. The tap cage stayed locked for tourists. Staff used it with a key. Tourists were directed to a separate refill station closer to the shop where baboon-proof barriers and staff presence were stronger. Within days, bag thefts dropped. Not because baboons became nicer, because the reward disappeared. The dominant male still returned, testing. It approached the staff tap, rattled the cage, failed, and moved away. It approached tourists, found fewer bags on the ground, fewer open snacks, fewer easy wins. It tried once or twice, got paintball pressure, got human stillness instead of panicked running. The lesson shifted. Panic no longer produced dropped bags. And without dropped bags, the site became less profitable than other foraging areas, like the riverbed figs farther away, or the old picnic spot where someone always left crumbs. The baboon troop adjusted. They still passed through the viewpoint, but they didn't hold it the way they had. One late afternoon, Nala watched the dominant male sit on a rock above the parking area, looking down at the tap cage and the tourists. For a moment, it looked almost thoughtful. Then it turned away and trotted into the scrub, following the troop. Ms. Hartwell checked in a week later. "Any incidents?" she asked. Nala shrugged. "They test," she said, "but it's calmer." Cabello added, "We stopped feeding the behavior." Ms. Hartwell nodded. "That's the only thing that works," she said. Nala walked past the tap cage and listened to the simple sound of water filling a jerry can. The line moved normally again. People waited. Nobody screamed. Nobody dropped bags. It felt ordinary, which was the victory. Because the real danger in tourist sites wasn't dramatic animal aggression. It was routine human mistakes. Bags on the ground, food in hands, people running and turning themselves into prey-like movement. The baboon had held the water tap line because humans hesitated to enforce boundaries. The tourists dropped their bags because panic made them choose speed over control. When the reserve changed the system, caged the tap, moved the refill point, disciplined human habits, the baboon didn't lose intelligence. It lost profit. And in the wild, when profit disappears, even the boldest opportunist moves on.